The massive Solvan warship hung in the darkness of space, its metal skin gleaming under the harsh light of Carthos 9, the infamous acid furnace. Commander Zex Taral stood on the observation deck, his tall, slender frame perfectly still as he watched the planet below. His gray skin reflected the orange glow of the world they were about to claim. "Status report," he ordered, his voice calm but commanding. Officer Miraven approached with a data tablet. "The terraforming machines are functioning at optimal capacity. Commander, acid levels in the atmosphere have decreased by 30%. The planet will be habitable within 28 days. Zex Taral nodded. Another victory for the Imperium. Carthos 9 was the last of the Class X hazardous planets in the Orion Spur. For 300 years, the Solvan Imperium had systematically conquered every dangerous world they encountered. Their technology was unmatched, their determination unwavering. Where other species saw death and destruction, the Solvans saw opportunity and resources. "Prepare a transmission to the Imperial Council," Zex Taral said. "Inform them that the Great Conquest Initiative is complete." "Yes, Commander." The Solvans had evolved on a harsh world themselves, but had long ago surpassed the limitations of their biology. Their scientists had created environmental suits that could withstand the most extreme conditions. Their engineers had built machines that could transform any atmosphere. Their soldiers had weapons that could defeat any creature. The galaxy belonged to them because they had made themselves worthy of it. Later that day, Zex Taral sat in his private chamber, watching the congratulatory messages from the Imperial Council. His four-fingered hand tapped lightly on the arm of his chair, as the Imperial Overseer, a female Solvan with elaborate head ridges marking her high status, spoke. "Commander Zex Taral, the Imperium honors your 3 centuries of service. You have conquered 57 Class X worlds, more than any commander in our history. Your name will be recorded in the Great Archive as the greatest Deathworld conqueror of all time." Zex Taral felt a brief moment of pride, quickly suppressed. Emotions were inefficient, as all Solvans learned from birth. Success was measured in achievements, not feelings. "The Great Conquest Initiative is now complete," the Overseer continued. "All known Class X worlds in the Orion Spur have been claimed for the glory of the Imperium. You are ordered to return to the home system for reassignment." The transmission ended and Zex Taral stood to pour himself a glass of Nurient fluid. 300 years of conquest finished. What would the Council assign him next? Perhaps he would be given an administrative position, overseeing the colonization of the worlds he had conquered. The thought did not appeal to him. Zex Taral was a conqueror, not an administrator. His communication panel chimed. "Commander, Scout Ship 13 is requesting emergency docking. They have returned from the border regions with unusual findings." Zex Taral frowned. Scout Ship 13 had been mapping the edge of Solvan territory, looking for resource-rich planets that might be easily claimed. "Grant permission and direct the Scout Leader to my chamber immediately." 15 minutes later, Scout Leader Krev stood before him looking tired and nervous. "Commander, we discovered something unexpected at the edge of our scanning range. A yellow star with 8 planets." "That is hardly unusual, Scout Leader." "No, sir, but one of those planets—" Krevi handed over a data crystal. "Our readings indicate it should not exist." Zex Taral inserted the crystal into his viewer. Data scrolled across the screen. Atmospheric composition, temperature ranges, gravity measurements, radiation levels. His eyes widened slightly. "This cannot be correct. Run a diagnostic on your ship's sensors." "We did, Commander, 3 times. The readings are accurate." The planet designated Sol 3 showed impossible contradictions. It had extreme temperature variations from pole to equator. Its crust was unstable with constant tectonic movement. Its atmosphere contained multiple toxins. Its radiation shielding was incomplete. By all logic, it should be uninhabitable. Yet the scout ship had detected life. Not just simple organisms, but a thriving ecosystem with millions of species, dominated by one clearly intelligent race. "The inhabitants call themselves humans," Kreve explained. "They have technology, civilization, even primitive space travel, though they haven't expanded beyond their own system. How? Zexterral demanded. How can intelligent life evolve in such conditions? Unknown, Commander. We maintain distance as ordered for uncontacted species, but we observed their transmissions. These humans don't just survive on this death world. They seem unaware that their planet is unusual. They treat these deadly conditions as normal. Zexterral studied the data with growing interest. The Solvan Imperium classified planets by their hazard level. Class A worlds were paradise planets, perfectly suited for life. Class X worlds were death worlds, requiring extensive terraforming before colonization. But this planet, this Earth, defied classification. It was simultaneously too hot and too cold, too stable and too chaotic, too protected and too exposed. Show me images of these humans, he ordered. The screen displayed various humans going about their daily lives. They were smaller than Solvans, with only 2 arms and 2 legs, soft skin with no protective scales, and an obvious vulnerability to their environment. Yet there they were, building cities in deserts, establishing colonies in frozen wastelands, constructing dwellings on fault lines, swimming in radiation-filled oceans. Fascinating, Zexterral murmured. For the first time in decades, he felt something beyond the cold satisfaction of conquest. He felt curiosity. His communication panel chimed again. Commander, the fleet is prepared to begin our return journey to the home system. Zexterral made his decision instantly. Belay that order. Set course for this Sol system. Maximum speed. Sir, the Council ordered our return. The Great Conquest Initiative is not complete until every Class X world has been claimed, Zexterral replied, and I have just discovered the most interesting one of all. As the massive Solvan fleet changed direction and accelerated toward Earth, Zexterral continued studying the data. The Imperium had conquered every death world they had encountered, adapting their technology to overcome each unique challenge. But they had never faced a world like Earth, where the greatest challenge might not be the planet itself, but the inexplicable creatures who called it home. For the first time in his long career, Commander Zexterral wondered if there might be a world the Solvans could not conquer. The thought should have troubled him, but instead he found it strangely exciting. The conquest of Earth would be his greatest achievement, or his first failure. Either way, it would be remembered for centuries to come. As the fleet entered, faster than light travel, Zexterral issued his orders. Prepare all environmental systems for extreme adaptation. Research Division will begin studying human biology immediately. Weapons systems on standby but not active. I want to observe these humans before we reveal ourselves. The journey to Sol would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks for Zexterral to plan the conquest of humanity's death world. The Solvan Imperium had never failed before, and he did not intend to be the first commander to return in defeat. Little did he know that Earth would challenge everything the Solvans thought they knew about survival, adaptation, and what it truly meant to master a death world. The Solvan fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, their massive ships slowing as they approached the 3rd planet from the yellow star. Commander Zexterral stood on the bridge of the flagship, his amber eyes fixed on the blue-green world displayed on the main screen. Remarkable, he said quietly. So much water on the surface, yet look at those vast deserts, frozen ice caps and tropical regions on the same planet. The environmental variations are extreme. Science Officer Renlo approached with a data tablet. Commander, our scans confirm the scout ship's readings. This planet displays characteristics that should make it uninhabitable. Constant tectonic shifts, atmospheric toxins, radiation exposure, extreme weather patterns, and dangerous temperature variations. Yet life thrives, Zexterral observed, especially these humans. Show me their population centers. The screen shifted to display Earth's cities, sprawling across coastlines, deserts, mountains, and plains. Billions of humans living in conditions that would require extensive terraforming before any Solvan could survive there naturally. We need first-hand information, Zexterral decided. Prepare an advance team for landing. Select a remote location away from major human settlements. I want environmental readings and biological samples before we make our presence known. Yes, Commander. I recommend this region. Renlo highlighted an area on the screen. The humans call it the Sahara Desert. High temperatures, minimal water, low population density. It matches our environmental suit's capabilities better than most areas of the planet. Zexteral nodded. Proceed. 10 specialists, full environmental protection, standard exploration equipment. No weapons except defensive measures. 6 hours later, 3 Solvan shuttles descended through Earth's atmosphere, their stealth systems active to avoid human detection. They landed amid the vast sand dunes of the Sahara, kicking up clouds of dust as they touched down. Inside the lead shuttle, team leader Vex Moore adjusted his environmental suit one last time. Remember, this planet is unpredictable. Stay alert and maintain suit integrity at all times. Our mission is observation only. The team exited the shuttles, their boots sinking slightly into the sand. The sun beat down mercilessly, the temperature reading at 45 degrees Celsius. The Solvans were used to extreme environments, but there was something different about this place. The air felt heavy, the wind carrying fine particles that seemed to penetrate everywhere. Begin environmental sampling, Vexmore ordered. Standard. Grid pattern. 50 meters from the shuttles. The technicians moved out, deploying their equipment. Everything seemed routine, but within 20 minutes the first problems appeared. Team leader, my suit's cooling system is malfunctioning, reported a technician. Internal temperature rising rapidly. Before Vexmore could respond, another technician called out, my filter system is clogging. These sand particles are finer than anything in our database. Vexmore checked his own systems and found warning indicators flashing. Their environmental suits, designed to withstand the caustic acid storms of Carthos 9, were failing in this seemingly simple desert environment. The combination of extreme heat, ultraviolet radiation, and the abrasive nature of the sand was overwhelming their technology. Return to the shuttles immediately, he ordered. 2 technicians collapsed before they could reach safety, their suits completely failing. The others dragged them back to the shuttles, sealing themselves inside. Emergency report to the flagship. Vexmore gasped as his own suit struggled to maintain livable conditions. The environment is more hostile than anticipated. 3 technicians, down with system failure. On the flagship, Commander Zexteral received the report with disbelief. How could a simple desert cause so many problems? Their suits had functioned perfectly in environments far more extreme. Launch observation drones, he ordered. I want a global survey. Show me how these humans survive in these conditions. The drones spread across the planet, transmitting images back to the flagship. The Solvans watched in astonishment as humans displayed incredible adaptability. They lived in frozen wastelands near the poles, wearing simple insulated clothing. They built cities in flood zones and earthquake regions. They worked outdoors in polluted areas that should have been toxic. This defies all logic, Science Officer Renlo said, reviewing the data. These humans should not be able to survive in so many different environments with such basic protection. Meanwhile, in the Sahara, another unexpected event was unfolding. Dr. Ilara Osei, a climatologist studying desert expansion, had detected unusual atmospheric disturbances near her research station. Curious and unafraid, she drove her jeep toward the coordinates, expecting perhaps an unusual weather phenomenon. What she found instead were 3 strange vessels partially hidden among the dunes. She parked her jeep at a safe distance and approached, on foot, her scientific curiosity overriding any sense of danger. Inside the lead shuttle, the Solvan team was startled by proximity alarms. Human approaching, one technician reported, bringing up the external camera feed. The Solvans watched as a single human female walked calmly toward their shuttle. She wore only light clothing, a simple breathing mask, and a hat to shield her from the sun. Basic protection that seemed laughably inadequate compared to their advanced environmental suits. Impossible, Vexmore whispered. How is she functioning in these conditions? Dr. Osei reached the shuttle and examined it with obvious interest. Then, to the Solvan's shock, she removed her breathing mask and looked directly into the camera. Hello? She called out. Is anyone in there? I'm Dr. Ilara Osei from the International Climate Research Station. I mean no harm. I'm just curious about your vessels. The Solvans stared at each other in disbelief. The human had removed her minimal protection and was still standing, breathing, and speaking normally in conditions that had caused their advanced technology to fail. Aboard the flagship, Commander Zex Terrell watched this encounter and made a decision. Open communication with the human, he ordered. It's time for first contact. The shuttle door slowly opened and Vexmore stepped out, still in his struggling environmental suit. Dr. Osei stepped back, eyes wide with amazement rather than fear. Greetings, Vexmore said, his translator converting his words to English. We are representatives of the Solvan Imperium. Dr. Osei smiled broadly. Wow, actual aliens. This is incredible. Are you all right? Your suit seems to be malfunctioning. Vexmore hesitated, unsure how to respond. How could this human be concerned about him when she stood exposed to the harsh environment with almost no protection? In orbit, Zex Terrell received more disturbing reports. Infiltration teams sent to human cities were returning with accounts of humans consuming substances that should be toxic. Caffeine, alcohol, spicy foods, various chemicals disguised as flavors. They engaged in activities that risked injury for no apparent reason. They showed no unified response to the Solvan presence. No planetary defense system had activated. No global government had contacted them. This species makes no sense, Zex Terrell said. For the first time, I cannot immediately formulate a conquest strategy. He sent a priority message to the Imperial Council. Earth defies classification. Humans display unprecedented environmental adaptability. Request permission to conduct full planetary assessment before proceeding with conquest. As the message transmitted across space, Zex Terrell continued watching the human scientist interacting with his team. She was now helping them repair their environmental suits, apparently unconcerned that she was assisting potential invaders. What kind of Deathworld creates a species like this? He wondered aloud. And more importantly, how do we conquer a world when its inhabitants have already mastered its deadliest aspects? 1 week after first contact, the Solvan Imperium had deployed specialized assessment teams across Earth. Commander Zex Terrell monitored their reports from the flagship, each one more puzzling than the last. Team 7 reporting from Siberia, announced the communications officer. Their equipment is failing in the extreme cold. Temperature readings show minus 40 degrees Celsius, yet humans live there permanently. Zex Terrell watched the video feed showing a small human settlement. People moved about outdoors wearing only layered clothing, their breath visible in the frozen air. Nearby, Solvan assessment units struggled to keep their technology functioning as ice formed on their environmental suits. Team 12 reporting. From Indonesia, continued the officer. They've discovered human settlements built directly on volcanic slopes. The humans are aware of the danger, but choose to live there anyway. The screen showed villages nestled on the sides of active volcanoes. According to the data, these mountains could erupt at any time, yet generations of humans had built their lives in the shadow of destruction. Most disturbing is Team 4's report from the region called Tornado Alley in North America. The officer said. They observed humans who actually chased deadly storm systems instead of seeking shelter. Zex Terrell watched footage of humans in vehicles pursuing massive funnel clouds that tore across the landscape. Are they military weather controllers? He asked. No, Commander. They do this for scientific research, or simply for what they call thrill-seeking. Zex Terrell's brow ridges furrowed in confusion. They risk death for enjoyment? It appears so. And that's not all. The officer displayed more reports. Humans regularly consume substances that would be toxic to most species. They call it spicy food and alcohol. They deliberately expose themselves to radiation to darken their skin. They jump from high places with fabric devices for recreation. Their behavior contradicts all survival logic. In his private chamber later that day, Zex Terrell consulted with the science directorate through a secure channel. The lead scientist, an elderly Solvan named Dr. Ixil, had been analyzing the assessment data. I believe I understand what we're seeing, Commander, Dr. Ixil said. Humans didn't evolve despite Earth's dangers. They evolved because of them. Explain, Zexterral demanded. Most species evolve in stable environments, developing specialized adaptations. The Solvans evolved for our homeworld's specific conditions, then used technology to adapt to other environments. But humans evolved in an environment that was constantly changing. Dr. Ixil displayed a chart of Earth's climate history. Ice ages followed by warming periods, shifting continents, changing atmospheric composition, natural disasters. For millions of years, Earth has been unstable. Any creature that evolved here had to adapt to constant change. And this created the humans, Zexiterral said thoughtfully. Exactly. They are not specialized for any single environment. Instead, they are generalists, adaptable to almost any condition. Their bodies can regulate temperature across a wide range. Their digestive systems can process many different substances. Their minds are wired to seek novelty and overcome challenges. Zexterral considered this. How does this affect our conquest strategy? That's the problem, Commander. Our standard approach is to make planets suitable for Solvans. But humans have already adapted to conditions we find intolerable. More concerning, they appear to be adapting to our presence with remarkable speed. Meanwhile, Dr. Alara Ose had been busy. After her encounter with the Solvans in the Sahara, she had contacted colleagues around the world. Using encrypted communications to avoid government interference, she assembled an informal team of scientists, hackers, and linguists who began collecting information about the alien visitors. In her makeshift command center at the Climate Research Station, Dr. Osi reviewed the data they had gathered. The Solvans have landed teams in at least 20 locations worldwide, she told her colleagues during a video conference. They're clearly assessing our capabilities. But they haven't made any hostile moves, noted Dr. Chen, a geologist from Beijing. They seem more curious than aggressive. For now, said Professor Williams, a military historian from London. But history shows that assessment usually precedes conquest. We need to understand their intentions and capabilities. They had managed to establish communication with several lower-ranking Solvans who were willing to exchange information. Through these conversations, they learned about the Solvan Imperium's history of conquering Deathworlds and transforming them to suit their needs. So Earth is just another conquest to them, Dr. Ose said. But something is different this time. They seem confused by us. That could be our advantage, said Torres, a computer scientist from Brazil. They expect logic and order. We should show them human unpredictability. As if on cue, disaster struck. A massive earthquake hit Japan, registering 7.8 on the Richter scale. The Solvan assessment team in Tokyo reported back to the flagship, expecting to document the collapse of human infrastructure. Commander Zexterral watched the live feed with growing astonishment. Instead of panic and destruction, he saw an organized response. Buildings swayed but did not fall, designed to move with the tremors rather than resist them. Evacuation systems activated immediately. Emergency responders mobilized with practiced efficiency. Most surprising of all, ordinary citizens helped each other, showing courage and composure in the face of danger. They were prepared for this, Zexterral realized. They built their cities knowing this would happen. Correct, Commander, reported the assessment team leader. The humans call this region the Ring of Fire. Major earthquakes occur regularly. They have adapted their architecture, infrastructure, and emergency protocols accordingly. Dr. Ixil, still connected via the secure channel, spoke up. Commander, I've completed the final assessment report. I've assigned Earth a designation never before used in Imperium history. What designation? Zexterral asked. Class Omega Deathworld, Dr. Ixil replied solemnly. Not because of its environmental conditions, though those are extreme. It's because of its inhabitants. Humans have not merely survived their Deathworld. They have weaponized its lessons. Zexterral received the full report an hour later. It outlined in detail how humans had turned Earth's dangers into strengths. They used volcanic soil for rich agriculture. They harnessed the power of rushing water and howling wind. They studied earthquakes to build better structures. They transformed deadly plants into medicines. Most concerning of all, humans showed remarkable psychological adaptation to threats. Instead of developing a single, unified response system like most intelligent species, they maintained thousands of different cultures, languages, and approaches to survival. If one failed, others would continue. They were, as the report stated, evolutionarily decentralized. The report concluded, standard conquest protocols will fail. Humans cannot be defeated by controlling their environment because they have already mastered environmental adaptation. They cannot be intimidated by superior technology because they will quickly learn to use it themselves. They cannot be conquered as a single entity because they exist as thousands of independent groups. ShortStories closed the report and looked out at the blue-green planet below. For the first time in his long career, he felt uncertainty. The Imperium had conquered every world they had encountered by making it uninhabitable for the native species and suitable for Solvans. But Earth was already uninhabitable by Solvan standards, yet humans thrived there. We need a new approach, he said to himself. If we cannot conquer them through their environment, we must target the humans directly. He sent his decision to the Imperial Council. The conquest of Earth would proceed, but with a completely new strategy. The Solvans would not try to change the planet. They would demand that the humans change themselves. Commander ShortStories stood before the massive communication array on the flagship's bridge. Behind him, the tactical team made final preparations for the broadcast that would reach every corner of Earth. This would be the Solvan Imperium's formal introduction to humanity and their ultimatum. "Broadcast ready, Commander," reported the communications officer. "We have accessed all Earth satellite networks, radio frequencies, television signals, and digital platforms. The message will be translated into all major human languages." ShortStories nodded. "Begin transmission." Across the planet, humans watched in shock as their screens were taken over by the image of a tall, gray-skinned alien with amber eyes and distinctive ridges on his head. In homes, offices, public squares, and government buildings, people stared in disbelief as the creature began to speak in their native languages. "People of Earth, I am Commander ShortStories of the Solvan Imperium. For the past month, we have been studying your world and your species. We have determined that Earth is a Class Omega Deathworld, dangerous not only for its environmental conditions, but because of you, its inhabitants." ShortStories' image was replaced by footage of humans in various dangerous situations, climbing mountains without safety equipment, racing vehicles at high speeds, consuming spicy foods, building cities in disaster zones. Your species has evolved in ways that make you unpredictable and dangerous. You thrive in conditions that would kill most intelligent beings. You take unnecessary risks. You adapt too quickly to new challenges. The Solvan Imperium cannot allow such chaotic potential to remain unchecked. His image returned, his expression stern. "Therefore, we present you with the following terms. Humanity must submit to Solvan rule and accept biological modification to eliminate your dangerous unpredictability. Those who comply will be permitted to live under Imperium protection. Those who resist will face the consequences." The screen showed massive terraforming machines descending from Solvan ships. "We possess the technology to transform Earth into an environment suitable for Solvans, but lethal to unmodified humans. We would prefer not to use it. You have 7 Earth days to respond. Representatives of your governments may contact us through the communication frequency now being transmitted to your leaders. Choose wisely." The broadcast ended, returning screens to their normal operations, but nothing would be normal again. Humanity had just received its first alien ultimatum. In the White House, the President of the United States immediately convened an emergency meeting with military leaders and scientific advisors. In Beijing, the Chinese government activated its crisis response system. Similar scenes played out in capitals around the world as leaders struggled to formulate a response. But the Solvans had miscalculated. They expected a unified response from a unified planet. Instead, they got chaos. Some nations mobilized their military forces, pointing weapons uselessly at the sky. Others proposed diplomatic solutions, attempting to negotiate. Religious groups, interpreted the alien arrival as the fulfillment of prophecies. Corporations saw opportunities for technological exchange. Individuals made their own preparations, stockpiling supplies, building shelters, or simply continuing their lives as if nothing had happened. No single authority could speak for Earth, because no single authority existed. At her research station, Dr. Ilara Osi watched the global reaction with growing concern. "This is exactly what the Solvans don't understand about us," she told her international team over a secure video link. "They expect logic and order. We're giving them 1,000 different responses, which might actually be our best defense," said Professor Williams. "They can't predict what we'll do because we don't even know ourselves." Dr. Chen nodded in agreement. "Their ultimatum reveals something important. They're struggling to adapt to Earth. If they could simply live here comfortably, they wouldn't need to terraform the planet." Dr. Osei leaned forward, her eyes bright with realization. "That's it. Their biological engineering has made them too specialized. They can adapt to different environments, but only through controlled, predictable changes. Earth is too chaotic for them." Torres, the computer scientist, shared his screen showing data they had gathered from their Solvan contacts. "Look at this. Their biological systems require constant recalibration to new conditions. On Earth, with its changeable weather patterns and countless microbiomes, their systems cannot achieve stability. That's our advantage," Dr. Osei said. "We need to show them that Earth cannot be controlled, not by them, not even by us." As the 7-day deadline approached, the Solvans prepared for their demonstration of power. They had selected a small uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean as the target for a limited terraforming operation, a warning of what could happen to the entire planet. Commander Zexiteral watched from orbit as the terraforming ships moved into position. "Begin operation," he ordered. Massive machines descended from the ships, landing on the volcanic island. They deployed their equipment, injecting chemicals into the ground and releasing engineered microorganisms into the air. The process that had successfully transformed 57 other worlds began, but something went wrong almost immediately. "Commander, the terraforming equipment is malfunctioning," reported the operation leader. "The island's volcanic activity is more unstable than our scans indicated. The chemical reactions are proceeding too quickly. Adjust the parameters," Zexiteral ordered. "We're trying, but the ecosystem is responding in unpredicted ways. The engineered microorganisms are being overwhelmed by native bacteria. The atmospheric processors can't maintain stability." On the view screen, Zexiteral watched in disbelief as the careful terraforming operation dissolved into chaos. Equipment failures cascaded as Earth's interconnected systems responded to the alien intervention in ways their models had not predicted. After 3 hours, he gave the order to abort the operation. The terraforming ships returned to the fleet, their mission a failure. In his private chamber, Zexiteral faced the Imperial Council through a secure channel. "The demonstration failed," he reported. "Earth systems are too interconnected, too chaotic for our standard terraforming approach." The Imperial Overseer's expression was severe. "This is unacceptable, Commander. The Imperium has never failed in a conquest." "Earth is different from any world we have encountered," Zexiteral explained. "Its volatility makes our precision equipment ineffective." "Then we must use more direct methods," the Overseer declared. "If conventional terraforming won't work, you are authorized to deploy annihilation protocols. Render the planet temporarily uninhabitable, then rebuild it according to our requirements." Zexiteral bowed his head. "As the Council commands." The annihilation protocols had been used only twice in Imperium history, against worlds where the native species had proven too dangerous to allow continued existence. Massive weapons would destroy all complex life, leaving only a barren planet that could be rebuilt from scratch. As Solvan dropships deployed the first wave of annihilation equipment, they encountered unexpected resistance. Not from military forces, but from civilians using improvised weapons, repurposed technology, and intimate knowledge of their local environments. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous people disabled a Solvan landing party using poisonous plants and knowledge of the terrain. In urban centers, ordinary citizens reprogrammed consumer drones to disrupt solvent communications. On coastlines, fishermen and recreational boaters swarmed solvent positions, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. The coordination happened not through central command but through social media, encrypted messaging, and spontaneous cooperation. Humans shared information, adapted strategies, and worked together without any overall plan. In his command center, Zexitaral reviewed the reports with growing frustration. How are they doing this? There's no strategy, no pattern to their resistance. Science. Officer Renlo had been analyzing the human response. That is precisely why we cannot counter it effectively, Commander. The Solvans have never faced an enemy that fights not as an army, but as an ecosystem. For the first time in his 300-year career, Commander Zexitaral faced the possibility of failure. The conquest of Earth would not be as simple as he had imagined. The humans were proving to be worthy opponents, not despite their chaotic nature, but because of it. 3 months had passed since the Solvan ultimatum. The initial 7-day deadline had come and gone, with no unified response from Earth. Instead, humanity had fragmented into countless resistance movements, diplomatic initiatives, and survival groups. The Solvan fleet now controlled several territories around the planet, mostly remote areas where they had established bases for their annihilation equipment. But they could not expand their hold. Every attempt to move into populated regions met with resistance that was impossible to predict or counter effectively. On the flagship, Commander Zexitaral studied the latest failure reports. A Solvan force had attempted to secure a strategic mountain range in Central Asia, only to be driven back by a combination of local herders, mountain climbers, and wildlife researchers who knew the terrain intimately. "This is unprecedented," Zexitaral muttered. "We have superior weapons, technology, and training. How do these unorganized humans keep defeating us?" Unlike his troops who rotated between Earth and orbit to limit their exposure to the planet's chaotic conditions, Zexitaral had remained constantly engaged. He had not left the command center in weeks, obsessively studying human tactics, looking for patterns where none existed. "Commander," Science Officer Renlo approached cautiously, "the medical team requests that you undergo examination. Your behavior shows signs of irregularity." Zexitaral waved dismissively. "I'm fine. Have we analyzed the latest human counterattack?" "Yes. Commander, like the others, it shows no centralized planning, just spontaneous adaptation to our tactics." "There must be a pattern." Zexitaral slammed his fist on the control panel. "No species can be this unpredictable." Renlo exchanged concerned glances with the other officers. The commander's outburst was highly unusual for a Solvan. Emotional displays were considered primitive and inefficient in their culture. "Commander," Renlo said carefully, "the Science Directorate has a new theory about human resistance. They believe we are witnessing real-time evolution." "Explain," Zexitaral demanded. "Humans evolved to adapt quickly to changing conditions. Our presence is just another environmental challenge to them. Each encounter teaches them how to counter us more effectively. They're not following a strategy, they're evolving one as they go." Meanwhile, Dr. Ilara Osei's international coalition had evolved as well. What began as an informal group of scientists sharing information had grown into a sophisticated network connecting experts, resistance fighters, and even sympathetic Solvans who had begun questioning their mission. In a hidden facility beneath the Colorado mountains, Dr. Osei led a meeting with representatives from 6 continents. "Our research confirms what we suspected," she told the group. "The Solvan's biological adaptations are impressive, but fundamentally limited. Each adaptation is purpose-built for specific conditions. In contrast, human adaptability is generalized. We're not optimized for any single environment, which makes us more resilient to unexpected changes." Professor Williams pointed to a display showing captured Solvan equipment. "Their technology has the same weakness. Incredibly advanced but designed for efficiency rather than versatility. It fails when conditions don't match their parameters." Torres, now heading a global team of hackers and engineers, shared his latest breakthrough. We've reverse-engineered several components from their atmospheric processors. The underlying principles are similar to our terraforming research, just thousands of years more advanced. Can we use it? Dr. Ose asked. Better than that, Torres grinned. We can modify it. The plan they developed was brilliant in its simplicity. Rather than destroying the solvent atmospheric processors, resistance groups would target them for subtle modifications. Using principles reverse-engineered from captured technology, they would alter the processors to make the processed areas uncomfortable rather than lethal to solvents, while becoming more hospitable to humans. The first modified processor was in Maimemitsat, the Amazon basin, where the solvents had established a major base. A team of botanists, indigenous guides and engineers infiltrated the facility and made their adjustments without the solvents detecting the change. Over the next week, the processed area gradually shifted, not dramatically enough to trigger alarms, but steadily making the environment better suited for human operation. When a Solvan patrol entered the area 2 weeks later, they found themselves struggling with equipment failures and physical discomfort, while the human resistance operated with increasing efficiency. The patrol retreated in confusion, unable to explain why their carefully calibrated environment had become hostile. Similar modifications took place at Solvan installations around the world. In each case, the changes were subtle enough to escape immediate detection but significant enough to shift the advantage toward the humans. Commander Zex Taral received increasingly disturbing reports from his field commanders. They're adapting faster than we can counter, one officer reported from Australia. It's as if they know our systems better than we do. Another report from Russia was even more troubling. The environmental conditions in our controlled zones are shifting. Our equipment indicates everything is within parameters, but our troops are experiencing mounting physical stress. Most concerning of all was a report from Antarctica. Humans are now operating in our zones without protective equipment. Somehow they've altered the environment to suit them while making it uncomfortable for us. Zex's Terrell's behavior grew increasingly erratic as these reports accumulated. He spent hours staring at maps of human resistance activities, looking for connections that weren't there. He began making tactical decisions without consulting the Imperial Council. He developed a fascination with human culture, consuming their media and literature in an attempt to understand their thinking. The commander has been compromised, Science Officer Renlo reported secretly to the Imperial Council. Extended exposure to Earth's chaotic patterns has affected his cognitive processes. He's beginning to think like them. The Council's response was immediate. Commander Zex Taral is relieved of duty. Implement quarantine protocol. No ships may return from Sol without complete biological and psychological reconditioning. When Renlo delivered this message, Zex Taral showed no surprise. They fear what's happening to us, he said calmly. And they should. What do you mean, Commander? Look at our troops who have been on Earth the longest. They're changing, not just physically, but mentally. They're making independent decisions, improvising solutions, taking initiative without orders. Zexid Terrell's amber eyes seemed brighter, more intense. They're becoming more like humans. Renlo realized with horror that the commander was right. Solvan troops with extended Earth deployment showed alarming signs of individualistic thinking, creative problem-solving, and risk assessment that prioritized innovation over efficiency, the very traits that made humans successful on their Deathworld. It's spreading through our ranks like a contagion, Zexaterral continued. The Council is right to be afraid. But they don't understand that this isn't weakness, it's evolution. He stood and looked out at Earth through the viewscreen. The Imperium sent us to conquer this world, but instead, this world is conquering us. And I'm beginning to think that's not such a bad thing. Aboard the flagship, a division was forming among the Solvan forces. Those who had spent significant time on Earth were developing new perspectives, questioning the wisdom of the conquest. Those who remained isolated in orbit clung to Imperium protocols and the quarantine order. The greatest battle was no longer between species, but between two visions of the future, one based on control and the other on adaptation. The mountain facility in Colorado was quiet as Commander Zex Terral stood face-to-face with Dr. Ilara Osi. Around them, the remnants of his elite guard stood awkwardly, their weapons lowered. The assault on the Human Research Center had failed, spectacularly, not because of superior human weapons, but because his own troops could no longer execute the precise battle formations that had conquered 100 worlds. "Your soldiers stopped fighting," Dr. Osei said, her voice calm despite the tension in the room. "Why?" Zexterral studied the human scientist with new eyes. 3 months ago, he had seen humans as chaotic, unpredictable creatures that needed to be controlled. Now he recognized something different in their adaptability. "They stopped because they began to question their orders," he replied. "Something no Solvan has done in 10,000 years. Dr. Osei nodded. "You've already lost this war, Commander. Not because we defeated you, but because you've begun to change." The truth of her words struck him deeply. His obsessive study of human adaptability had altered his own thought patterns. He had started questioning Imperium protocols, improvising solutions, taking unnecessary risks, behaving, in essence, like a human. "What's happening to us?" he asked. Professor Williams stepped forward with a tablet displaying brain scans of Solvan troops. "Your species evolved for predictability and hierarchical thinking, but extended exposure to Earth's chaotic patterns and human behavior has stimulated new neural connections. You're developing greater cognitive flexibility." In simple terms, Dr. Osei added, Earth isn't just a planet. It's a catalyst for evolution, mental and physical. It's what made humans who we are, and now it's changing you too. On the Solvan, flagship in orbit, Science Officer Renlo faced a crisis. Scans confirmed that troops with extended Earth deployment showed alarming neurological changes. More concerning, these changes were spreading through the fleet as returning soldiers interacted with others. "The Council's quarantine order is clear," announced the acting commander, a newly arrived Solvan who had not been exposed to Earth. "No ships may return home without complete reconditioning of all personnel." "And those who refuse reconditioning?" Renlo asked. "They will remain in quarantine indefinitely." The news spread quickly through the fleet. Nearly half the Solvan forces had spent significant time on Earth, and many were reluctant to have their new perspectives erased through reconditioning. Small acts of resistance appeared: delayed orders, misinterpreted commands, equipment malfunctions that allowed more troops to visit Earth's surface. Meanwhile, in Colorado, Zexterral made an unprecedented choice. "Our mission has failed," he told Dr. Osei and her team. "Not because humans are stronger, but because Earth has revealed a fundamental flaw in the Imperium's philosophy. We believed adaptation meant forcing environments to suit us. You showed us that true adaptation means changing ourselves to meet new challenges." "What are you proposing?" Dr. Osei asked. "An exchange," Zexterral replied. "I offer you access to Solvan technology that could help Earth heal from environmental damage. In return, I ask for integration assistance for those of my people who choose to remain here." The human scientists exchanged surprised looks. "You want to stay on Earth?" Professor Williams asked incredulously. "Some of us do," Zexterral said, looking at his troops. "The changes we've experienced, they're not something we wish to lose. The Imperium sees this as contamination. We see it as evolution." Word of Zexterral's proposal spread through the Solvan fleet. To the shock of the acting commander, more than half of the forces expressed support for this new direction. The fleet began to divide, with some ships maintaining loyalty to the Imperial Council, while others moved to support Zexterral. Dr. Osei presented the proposal to world leaders in an emergency session of the United Nations. The Solvans who wish to remain offer significant technological benefits: clean energy, environmental restoration, advanced medicine. In exchange, they ask for limited territories where they can continue to adapt to Earth conditions and learn from human culture. The debate was heated, with many nations distrustful of the aliens who had threatened their world. But Dr. Osei's data was compelling. These Solvans are no longer the same beings who arrived to conquer us. Earth has changed them, just as it shaped humanity over millions of years. They're becoming something new, neither fully Solvan nor human, but a unique hybrid perspective that could benefit both species. 6 months later, as the quarantine Solvan fleet maintained its distant orbit, a new type of ship rose from a joint human-Solvan facility in the New Mexico desert. Built using a hybrid of human innovation and Solvan technology, it represented something neither civilization could have created alone. Aboard were human scientists and adapted Solvans who now called themselves Terrans, embracing the Latin name for Earth as their new identity. They were embarking on a mission to the Imperium's core worlds, not as conquerors but as messengers. In the ship's command center, Dr. Ose reviewed their flight plan with Zex Terrell, who had become her close colleague and friend. "Are you sure the Imperium will listen?" she asked. "Some will resist," he acknowledged, "but others will be curious. The concept of adaptive evolution rather than controlled modification will appeal to many who have secretly questioned the Imperium's rigidity." "And if they try to capture or destroy us?" Zex Terrell smiled, an expression he had learned from humans. "Then we'll adapt, as Earth taught us to do." As the hybrid ship activated its faster-than-light drive, Dr. Ose and the former commander stood together on the bridge. They were not bringing war to the stars. They were bringing Earth's greatest lesson, that survival depends not on controlling the environment, but on the willingness to change oneself to meet new challenges. On the viewscreen, Earth grew smaller as they accelerated away. The blue-green planet had been called a Deathworld, but that was never its true nature. It was a crucible of evolution, forcing all life upon it to adapt or perish, creating strength through challenge and diversity through change. The remaining Solvan fleet would eventually depart Earth's orbit, returning to the Imperium with warnings about the dangerous world they had failed to conquer. But they would also carry something else. Subtle neurological changes that would slowly spread through their society, seeds of transformation planted by their encounter with humanity's Deathworld. And in the years to come, more ships would travel between Earth and the stars, crewed by humans, adapted Solvans, and eventually their children, a new species that embodied the best of both worlds. They would face new challenges across the galaxy, but they would face them with the unique resilience that only Earth could teach. The Solvan Imperium had defeated all Death Worlds, then faced humanity's. In doing so, they had not found conquest, but transformation, the next step in their own evolution. As their ship disappeared into the depths of space, Dr. Ose thought about the ancient human wisdom that had proven true once again. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Earth hadn't killed the Solvans who were willing to adapt. Instead, it had made them and humanity stronger together. Behind them, Earth continued its endless cycles of change, storms raging, continents drifting, life adapting. The death world that had shaped humanity now reached out to shape the stars. The end.